Welcome to the 105th episode of the Flipped Learning Network podcast. I'm your host, Troy Cockrum, along with Joan Brown. The Flipped Learning Network podcast is brought to you by the EdReach Network, bringing educators a voice, a big voice. Today on the show we have Timonius Downing, and we are going to talk about gamification of a flipped classroom. Tim, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm from Capitol Heights, Maryland. This is my 16th year teaching, second year doing gamification, and now I'm in a different role. Last year I flipped my class and I gamified it, but now I'm out of the classroom. As many of us who utilize those things, we get pulled out to train other people. So now we have 3 other teachers that are flipping their classroom. We're kind of gamifying the whole building. So I can talk how that's going to work out in this year. So I'm excited about that. But my official title is the instructional lead teacher and technology liaison for our building. And I'm happy to be here.
And so first let's distinguish, there's a misconception, I think, between game-based learning and gamification.
Right. Yeah. So gamification is essentially taking something that is not a game and making it into a game using gaming mechanics. So essentially last year my class was the game that the students played. So they earned XP points, they leveled up, they had, we used badges, we had a reward system. So all those components that typically would not exist now exist in my classroom. So my class became the game that they played. Whereas game-based learning is when you're actually playing a game and you're learning through a game, whether that's, an off-the-shelf game, a web-based game, any type of digital game, which is totally different. So, but I used both, and I loved using both with my students, so because it enhanced the total experience. And being an English language arts teacher, it was real easy for me to utilize game-based learning and kind of tie it to Common Core state standards. So, yeah.
I'm thinking most teachers who've been around a while understand game-based learning. I mean, those have been there, the CDs from way back, Oregon Trail, you name it,
right,
have been around. But I don't think when I try to talk about gamification that they really understand that. And
right.
It's going to be interesting to hear you kind of describe what it is your students were moving toward and what they were doing to get those points or badges.
Right. Yeah, and it was an interesting year because it was actually my first year flipping. So it was my first year flipping, and I decided to do gamification at the same time. And so it was a new experience for me. It was a new experience for my students, but it was great because I wanted to do both. I was debating, and I went to my principal and I said, I want to flip my class, and let me backtrack a little bit because my story in terms of why I wanted to flip, I think is important to kind of set the stage. So I teach talented and gifted students and for a number of years, and they weren't achieving to the level that I thought they should be achieving. The misconception with talented and gifted students is people assume they're intrinsically motivated because they're smart, and so there's that assumption that that sits there that, oh, you're teaching the smart kids. Yes, these kids are smart, they're bright, but a lot of our kids have free and reduced meals. They come from these impoverished situations where there's a lack of parental support at home. So they're dealing with a lot of socioeconomic issues that weigh on them. And what I was finding when they transitioned to middle school, that's a whole nother animal in of itself, dealing with peer pressure and now having to balance all these classes, et cetera, et cetera. So what I was seeing was my students not doing well because of the projects, all the things that they needed to do at home, they didn't have the support at home that they needed. So when I read about flipped learning, and here's a plug that I read your book about the English language arts, and that book is so awesome because it lays it out so beautifully for you, just step by step. What should you do? And so I was like, this is the way to go because it basically shifts the weight from at home with the parents and the students getting frustrated because they don't have the support to now it shifts all those projects, those ideas, those things that are, really taking up the amount of time to put it on the class and put it on me as a teacher. And I saw remarkable results now because now the students are being successful, they're motivated, they're inspired. I mean, it just does so much for their self-esteem now that we can conquer these big projects and tasks in class, and now it's really more student-driven than teacher-driven. So, you kind of expressed that to my principal. She said, go for it. I said, I wanted to do gamification too. She said, go for it. As long as the data matches up, you're fine. So, we went and I partnered with GameStop because I wanted to create this visual appeal of gamification, like in my classroom. So I just went to them and told them what I was doing, and I got some standees and some posters and made it look like a video game. So when the kids came in, they were like, wow, this looks amazing. What are we going to do? So immediately they were engaged. And then I just kind of linked some things to Common Core state standards because, we're a big Common Core state standard school because we're in Maryland. So that's, being pushed. So we always have to be careful about what is this matching? What are you teaching through this? It's because the misconception, the kids are just playing games. How are they learning through this? And I think the problem is people don't see the thinking behind the gaming. So, so this has been quite a year, and I feel a little bit sad because I'm not in the classroom, but I now get to gamify my entire building, which is going to be fun. So we kind of roll that out tomorrow to all the students. So
the whole building is going gamified.
So, yeah, I mean, it's just a small component, but so I'm in charge of school culture in my building because we had a new principal. This is her second year. She had big shoes to fill. We had a high turnover rate with staff, and she felt like there needs to be something to impact school culture. And one of the things I thought about was because we had a lot of issues with like kids skipping class, they getting caught up in hall sweeps. But then again, it was the whole thing about there was nothing in place to motivate the students. There were no incentives in place, and our kids kind of need that carrot dangling in front of them to get them to work. So we've just created a program where I have my 6th graders competing against 7th graders, 7th against 8th, and we're going to have a leaderboard, and I'm using Class Dojo to create a point system. And it's more about, okay, if you get caught in the hall sweep, let's see who has the least amount of hall sweeps. So myself and all the admin has access because Class Dojo now you can share their classes. So basically I set up a 6th grade class, 7th grade class, 8th grade, and now they earn points based on their cafeteria conduct, based on hall sweeps, and if they're coming to class on time. And then we just created a calendar of incentives every month. So whichever team, and so now it's team-based. So now each, 6th grade is pulling each other, saying, okay, we need to get on class because like the first incentive is they get to back dress down days. The one who has the highest points. Then the points reset at the end of the month, and next month they're working towards something else. So each month is something new that they're working towards. And at the end, whoever has the most consecutive wins, we're going to arrange some type of great field trip for them to go on as the winning class. So that's kind of like how we kind of put in a little bit of gamification through the school. So hopefully it works out. I'll let you know.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Perhaps, for some of the teachers that really just are not following everything here yet,
Right.
Maybe just as simple as explaining like a badge system, something that Class Dojo does, might be a good option to just start with the simple.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I started to do, and because I wanted to show how, and I'll keep going back to Common Core. I hope I don't Common Core you to death, but I started creating badges to show which Common Core state standard students mastered. So it's not just this badge that they earn, but it shows mastery based on the content and the skill that I'm teaching in class. So when they, mastered Shakespeare, and they earned a Shakespeare badge. So I just went in, found, some images, created a badge, and at first I was using Edmodo because this was before 3D Game Lab really had fully rolled out as a LMS that had all the gamification components in it. So for all those teachers that use Edmodo, if you're using the badge system in Edmodo, that's a start because the badges are there. You can share the badges. You can borrow other people's badges, create them, duplicate them, edit them based on your specific class needs. So it started there, and it worked for a while because other badges I started to create, I used on my leaderboard too. So I had the students, when they earned a badge, I created a leaderboard, and it showed the badges that they've earned, how many badges, et cetera, et cetera. So they started creating this academic competition amongst the students about how many badges they earned and which badge. And then I linked the badges to certain privileges. Like if you earn this many badges, it equals a no homework pass. Or if you earn this many badges, you can come to lunch on me, or something to that effect. So they were constantly trying to work towards getting badges. So it worked pretty well.
I think what a lot of teachers forget is it's that public, I guess, accomplishments that kids really are responding to now.
Yeah.
We're so used to, handing back a paper and you keep your grade private, and I understand that, but this whole idea of a public accomplishment is part of the gaming system, and kids do really respond. So that's a badge system.
Yeah.
It's great.
And we're trying to come out with a way. I mean, I'm still trying to find a company to do this, but like almost have a badge system for teachers. You know what I mean? A way for them to display certain mastery of things in their classroom, or even for the students. I mean, it's great to have it digitally, but if you had something that you could put on your shirt, to show, I've mastered this, that would be, really cool. Not necessarily you don't have to have a whole sash like the Boy Scouts, but something simple that, I mean, because some kids may not be into that, but just something simple they could sew on their shirt or put it, you know what I mean? Like just to display. So I'm still searching for that.
They're out there. There's a few being used. Open Badges is one that I know they're using for professional development in some schools.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll go more into professional development in a little bit, but you mentioned 3D Game Lab, and I wanted to talk about that. I know, for years people have seen how students are motivated by games.
Right.
But try to gamify a class without a learning management system to help you.
It's really hard.
It was very difficult. You hear of people who would create spreadsheets or have leaderboards on their bulletin board or whatever, but they had to manually do a lot.
Exactly, yeah.
And when I saw 3D Game Lab, when you guys demonstrated it at FlipCon this summer, I was blown away at how much it does for you, and I started using it for professional development with my staff.
Right.
Tell us about 3D Game Lab and what it is and how you use it.
Well, 3D Game Lab is a learning management system that is completely gamified. I mean, they use what's called a quest-based approach, and that's just a term in which students go on kind of these adventures in which, typically when a student completes an assignment, or they're doing work in a class, it kind of follows a linear approach. Okay, so we do the lesson in class, then we may follow with a homework assignment. Then there's, some type of formative assessment, and then we finish the unit, there's some summative assessment, and then that's it, we move on. Whereas the quest-based approach uses a more non-linear approach, so where a student, can choose between different activities based on a unit. They could choose to do a blog, they can, choose to, complete, a game on this site, or they can, create a thing link, or whatever it is that they, want to do. It just doesn't follow this strict linear path, which I think is very important because it brings in student choice, student ownership, and is more student-driven than teacher-driven. With all that being said, what I really like about 3D Game Lab is the fact that it creates this automated system. Like Troy was saying earlier, before 3D Game Lab rolled out, there wasn't a learning management system that was really user-friendly in terms of trying to implement gamification. You had to create a spreadsheet here, try to do something else here, and all the components weren't necessarily in one place. So you had this hodgepodge system trying to make it work because the kids loved it. And that's what I started with. Like, I started doing the spreadsheets, and the kids love it because we would post the spreadsheets from 1 to the top student all the way down to 100. And it's funny because the kid at the bottom was like, Mr. Downing, what do I have to do to not be at the bottom? So they would work to try to not be in last, So with 3D Game Lab, you can automate in terms of your leaderboard. So you just kind of set the parameters. The leaderboard runs itself. The badge system, you can set the criteria for your badges. So if I say a student, if they score 80% on this assignment, they automatically get this special badge. Whereas like in Edmodo and other LMS, you have to manually go in, okay, let me look through my roster, figure out who deserves this badge, and now I got to click on every single student. Well, 3D Game Lab, once you set the criteria, it automates the whole system of earning badges. So the kid automatically gets the badge once you set it. So it's a lot of front loading, but once you front load everything, the system runs itself. So that takes a lot of time off the teacher in terms of trying to implement gamification. And then they still have, a Quest Armory where you can copy other activities. They have a huge Quest Armory where teachers can share quests and activities that they've created, and you can duplicate them and edit them based on your student needs. They also have, let's see, what else am I forgetting?
Well, Tim, are they aligned to the Common Core in there to some extent?
They are. Like, people have created quests that are aligned to the Common Core, and what I also like about 3D Game Lab, they also have kind of the player card. So, like, in a video game, you can pull up your player card and you can see all the achievements and the rewards and things of that nature for that particular player. So in 3D Game Lab, they've kind of mimicked that, and when you pull up the player card, right underneath the player card, you will see state standards, ISTE standards, or Common Core that this person has mastered based on quests that they've completed. So you can go in, you can create a quest, you can pick a Common Core state standard that aligns to that particular task, and once they've mastered it, they earn, that little bar or level up system on their player card. And then I also like the way you're able to give feedback to the student and how you can give them multiple opportunities to get things right. So it's not just one and done, okay, this is wrong, here's the grade, but you can give them another opportunity, say, okay, go back, recheck the rubric, here's some things that you did wrong, and then resubmit. So it's like playing a game. It's never over. You can always reset, come back, try again. So they have extra lives in 3D Game Lab. So,
And it is it's produced by Boise State. And I'm not sure how the relationship works there, but it's not an independent company. It's Boise State has created the Game Lab, and they're the one building it.
Yeah, Dr. Chris Haskell, I think his name is, and then. But what I really like, one of the, I don't know if she's the owner or the executive director, but Lisa Dawley, she's very hands-on with 3D Game Lab. That's what I really like about them. They're very responsive to, okay, if you have suggestions or ideas, or if you have issues, they really are hands-on with 3D Game Lab. And they get back to you immediately when you have an issue or concern, or, you have some mishap, and they're really hands-on. So they're really a great company.
So, I set it up for our staff this year, and it's a subscription service. You can either get a one-teacher subscription or a full building subscription. What frustrated me at first is they make you complete quests before you can open specific
But what
tools.
are your thoughts about that, though? I thought it was a good approach from a learner standpoint because it makes you learn the system. You know what I mean?
Right. I didn't.
It's a lot of quests to complete.
Right, and I learned from some. What I liked about some of them is it told you about the pedagogy behind space learning, and so it kind of helps set you up for success, as opposed to just giving you all the tools and letting you fly on your own.
Right. Yeah.
The part where I couldn't open up certain tools bothered me a little bit.
Right.
But I learned a lot from some of the later quests.
Yeah.
Some of the early quests seemed a little bit time wasting just to get the tool I needed to create part of it.
Because I think it's about 18 that you have to do to fully unlock everything.
Oh. So, yeah.
So you have to be really committed. Because I know I was like, oh, God, how many of these things do I have to do?
Yeah, because I'm just like, I need this. I would read the help section, and it would say, just click on your teacher button, and
it doesn't appear yet. It's not there. Yeah, right. I've been there,
So that is probably a good plan, though. A lot of teachers throw things at students, and they have never experienced it themselves, or never been all the way through it. And I agree with their approach then.
Yeah. It just can be very daunting at first because you just don't know. Because they don't tell you you have to complete this many quests. It's like you just keep going and they spoon feed you little by little, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, when is the end going to happen? So I just sent them an email like, how many of these things do I have to do? Yeah.
So go ahead, John.
I was just going to ask, because being the girl in the room, the gender thing, and boys are just really into gaming, and the girls are looking for the social aspect. Does 3D Game Labs have any kind of social networking at all?
They have, what is that thing called? The Guild, which is a component of 3D Game Lab. I mean, it's not required, but there is a social component that you can go to, and everybody who is part of 3D Game Lab can go and have kind of an off-site still discussion piece or what have you. I didn't use that part with my students. I just used it for myself if I had questions or I wanted to go talk in the forum or whatever, but that's the only other piece that they have. So it's really not like, at Moto where the kids can converse online. So I'm wondering whether or not they're going to move in that direction because there's very little like collaboration through 3D Game Lab. You know what I mean? It's almost like you complete the quest, you submit the assignment, that's it. So I'm just wondering if they're going to move to that model. So I'm just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, they could definitely layer that.
Right, yeah.
You can get the individual responsibility going with the kind of effect, and I think that would be also cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea because if students wanted to complete a quest together, they would still have to submit individually.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I took it because I'm like you. I came out of the classroom this year, and when I saw your guys at FlipCon, I was like, man, I want to go back to the classroom just to try this.
Right. And let me tell you how good Troy was. He was at the conference. Like we had, and it was amazing because I don't know how he still got it done, but we had a leaderboard because we gamified FlipCon, and you had to complete all these quests, and only the top winners got our prizes. And somehow, in addition to doing workshops, in addition to sitting in on sessions, this guy, as a live attendee, somehow managed, what place? You were like 6th place or 7th, somewhere high up on the leaderboard. And we're talking like maybe, 150, 200 people that were all competing. And most of the winners were virtual because obviously they have an advantage because they're not live and, they can multitask or whatever. Yeah. So somehow he's a multitasking guru and knows how to be in a session and get the stuff done. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I did, because I signed up the first day and did a couple of quests, but then there was one afternoon where I went back to the hotel because I was really tired and I wanted a break. And then I'm sitting at the hotel and I'm like, well, let me look more at this. And then I just started completing quest after quest, and I don't know how many I did in that hour or 2 hours that I was at the hotel, but and then I would check in throughout some of the sessions I was in and would check in and do a couple of things. So.
Yeah. But now I'm starting to see more LMSs that are geared towards gamification. Like, it was a new one I just saw. I guess it's kind of in beta mode. I think it's called Gamification. Have you seen that one?
No.
What was that?
It's called Gamified, gamified.com. And right now they're just kind of in beta mode, and they're in beta mode. So you had to send them an email to kind of test it out. But it uses a badge system. It has XP. You create assignments that basically are the games students play, but I haven't had a chance to really play with it. I just signed up for the beta. But I mean, it seems pretty LMS it's a simplified version of gamification. Mm-hmm. Because you just create your game, which is your assignment. The kids play it. You give them XP points. And I think it's kind of automated, too, because you do the front loading of each game. You front load the badge that is associated with that particular assignment. And then they earn points, and it has a leaderboard. So I think that might be a way to go, if you're looking for something very simple. Mm-hmm. That's probably free. So gamified.com, you might want to look at that. So
and it looks like you authenticate with a Google account. So
I
think if you've got a Google Apps for Education school, you could probably run it pretty fast.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought because I started I created, I think, about 10 quests to start when I introduced it to my teachers.
Mhm.
Um, and I had one teacher complete 10 quests over the first weekend.
Mhm.
And she's just like knocking them down, and I logged on like Sunday evening, and I'm like, wait a second, I need to create more quests. She's going faster than I expected them to go.
So let me
And
ask you this. So are you using 3D Game Lab to do flipped PD or just PD in general?
I put up right now. I've got like 16 quests. I've got about 20 in the works, but 16
Okay.
that are up, and they're like how to use this tech tool. So
Oh, okay,
one
gotcha.
is
Yeah.
how to use Google Docs because my
Yeah.
school seriously underuses Google Apps. So it's just a basic. So right now they're just basic introductions
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
on how to use Google Docs or Google Classroom or whatever. And you
Mhm.
know, Plickers was one of them. And as it goes along, I'm going to make the tasks much more complex
Okay.
um, and they won't all be tech tools. But right now, those are easy quests to create and get them familiar with the system and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's I keep pitching it to them, man. I send out a reminder about once a week and just say, "Hey, so and so has jumped to the top of the leaderboard, and so has completed this mini quest, and so has joined this week and started doing this." And um, I keep reminding them that just put in 15 minutes a week, and because I know once they get in, they'll probably do an hour.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
even if they only do one quest a week and put in that 15 minutes, at least they learned something that
Right.
they wouldn't have learned if they had just waited for me to bring it up at a staff meeting.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in there, but I'm not on your leaderboard. I'm sorry, Troy. I was just looking at it, thinking how pathetic it is that I'm so far down.
Well, and I had to remind teachers today too that because one teacher she's way up there. She's done every quest that I
Yeah,
have. She's
I'm
won
looking.
Wow.
several. And so I reminded, and I gave, like, for her, I took her recess duty when she earned 300 XP.
That's
I
pretty
said, I'll do
awesome.
your recess,
That is,
That is.
but then
See, and that's how you, that's
you're
the
the best.
incentive piece.
yeah,
So look, let me ask you this. Was that already, did you build that in? You know what I mean? Like, did they see, oh, wow, if I get 300 points, he's going to take my duty. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, so that was a driving
that
factor.
was, that's one
That's
of the
smart.
badges, yeah, that I put in there. Now, there's some, we still have, my principal and I haven't worked out all the incentives, so some of the badges are just fun badges to say
Right.
you are a Google expert now or whatever.
Yeah. And see,
But
yeah.
I did put the one where you get to skip a duty if you earn this many points, and
Right, yeah, and that's what we thought about with gamifying our school. Like I thought about giving a teacher extra planning period or having some type of executive parking. So like they have some special parking sign out there, and that person gets the ability to park in some space or whatever, and some other stuff. So it's kind of hard trying to figure out what to do to incentivize for teachers.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
Right. Now, I mean, we already do that as part of an incentive for the Teacher of the Month. So I think I'm kind of stuck with giving professional development points or hours as part of their recertification process in the state of Virginia. And for
oh, you're
lots of,
close then.
yeah, hi, I'm just down the
Yeah,
road.
you're neighbor. What part of Virginia?
Oh, Northern Virginia.
Oh, you're right around the corner
I'm in
then. Yeah.
Fairfax.
Oh yeah, I'm in Prince George's County. Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
So, that's supposedly our incentive program is to get points for professional development and recertification, but I don't think that is the same thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't quite ring true.
Right. Yeah. That's
I'd
true.
rather have the parking space. That's how I feel
Worry
about
about recertification later
it.
on.
You're really, well, a lot of them go out and they'll take you to actual college courses.
Right. Right.
That,
Yeah.
to actually do a short 20-minute quest is not the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know how to motivate, except I was going to talk a little bit about I got kind of listening this summer to G Summit, which is of course the game folks, and
Yeah.
there's a guy out there called let's see if I get his name right. I'll feel bad if I say it wrong. Yukai Chao. and he
Okay.
talks about the 8 motivators for people in gaming. But I saw an article just recently how someone took that and said, well, that's what motivates students in the classroom.
Okay.
And so much of what you're talking about now is part of his, he calls it an octalysis because it's 8 motivators.
Wow.
But
Okay.
he's actually going to be coming out with a book soon, and I'm going to be real interested to hear how these two worlds start to merge. When we
Right.
talk about motivation a lot more, teachers need to be talking about what motivates students to learn. And it's the same stuff as what motivates a kid to continue to play a game.
And what I found with a lot of my students, they loved more of the multiplayer quests, being able to collaborate. Like we had a unit that was on mock trials, and I found
Mm-hmm.
these really awesome mock trial simulators online, and it easily ties to, you're writing your arguments and stating your claims and defending your claims and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had about 4 different quests, and every kid picked the multiplayer one where they were on the person was on the defense and one person was on the prosecution, and they played against each other. So I mean, I think when you look at gaming now, most of the games that kids love are all these multiplayer, collaborative games where they're playing with someone else, So
Well, League of
why not
Legends,
emulate that? Right. Yeah.
right? I mean, that's one of the huge appeals is that you're there with a team. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, I had a couple of teachers doing 3D Game Lab at the same time, but they had no idea that they were doing it at the same time. And I was watching them turn in quests, and I'm like, I wonder if they know
Right. Yeah.
they're moving up the leaderboard like
Right.
simultaneously. And
Right.
I wish there was some way that they could see and communicate with each
Mm-hmm.
other.
Or
So,
even create a collaborative, like you said earlier, a collaborative quest that they could do together,
yeah.
to submit together and still get points together for doing it. You know what I mean? Something like that. So maybe they'll watch this podcast and
They might.
shoot
They'll
a
go improve
suggestion.
it.
Right. Tweet it out. Say, hey, we have some ideas. Yeah.
Well, I know a lot of teachers have done that in their class anyway. Whenever they do some kind of a, I hate to use the terminology group project,
Yeah.
but they do. They layer it so that there's an individual component, and then you've got the group. And I do believe that you could do that easily within any kind of gamified online option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you can possibly do, unfortunately, I don't think well, actually, they do have a free version of it now, is like Classcraft.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, where you're gamifying classroom behavior. So Classcraft, it still utilizes the badge system. And it's funny because my students don't necessarily play World of Warcraft, but when I rolled it out when it was free last year, they loved it. I mean, because there's that piece in there where they can go in and use their quote-unquote powers to help each other, to collaborate, to give each other points, to save. Because you actually kind of die in the game. Like, the way it works is you get points based on things you do in class. So the teacher is the quote-unquote the game master. And so if a student's on task, I give them points, and they have this huge screen. You can see who's getting points. But then the kids are also working in groups, because they have like a guild method. So all the students, when they're guild, they have a guild ranking system, individual ranking system. And then as kids are off task, they lose points. They lose health points. So if you get down to 0 health points, you die, and the teacher chooses a death sentence. Whether it's, okay, you got to clean out the room, or you got to do detention, X, Y, and Z. So that was really fun, because my kids, they love to see how many points, how many health points, what they're earning. But then I also use it as a reward system. Like when you leveled up and you got to this many points, you could listen to music in your class, or you can choose to where you want to sit. And then they had these random daily events that I will never forget ever in my life, because the random events said things like, okay, every warrior in the class gets 500 points, or every healer loses points. But the one that I chose one day, I didn't choose it, but it was just random. It says the person with the lowest amount of points, and I said this in FlipCon, gets to choose a song for the game master to sing in class. So I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So, of course, they chose Katy Perry, Dark Horse, for me to sing. So I'm sitting there, like, I have no idea what this song is. So I'm sitting there, and so they just pulled up the lyrics. So I'm sitting up there singing, are you ready for?
Is
They
this
had
on
a kick out of
YouTube?
it.
Can I find
No,
this on
no,
YouTube?
hopefully not. 'Cause I had all cameras, because immediately the phones came out. And they were like, oh, we got to get ready. I was like, no, you're not going to record this. This is going to be a legend that's just going to, echo the halls of Walker Mill forever that I sang this song. So, but since then, they just loved it because it was just something new every day. The kids came out, came to class with just on tiptoe expectation, like, whoa, how's this going to pan out today? What are we going to do? Who's going to, lose points? And so it made it fun.
It does.
And
It's that novelty. They really like the surprise effect. And, it's something that I don't want to say that this is unfortunate, but teaching has gotten to the point where I'm going to tell you what I'm going to teach you today, and you're going to learn it, and then we're going to tell you again what we taught you.
Right.
And it's just rote kind of repetition. And I always liked it when the kids would come to my class. What are we doing today? I go, let's find out.
Right.
And make it more mysterious and a little bit more challenging to pull it out right at the beginning.
Yeah.
But the other thing I noticed you were talking about class craft. So that age group that you were teaching was what?
Seventh grade.
Mm-hmm. So class dojo, I hear, is more elementary, and that's still behavioral.
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing. And I used Class Dojo before I knew about Classcraft, and still had a point system tied to Class Dojo. So but I got the buy-in from the students, and I think that's the important piece. Like if you say, and it's their whole argument about whether or not you should give rewards and that it should be, internal versus external, all that stuff. All I know is it worked for my kids, and they came up with the reward system. And it's funny, even though I hate to equate it to training a dog, but when that little ding went off and they saw somebody getting points, it was like a whole hush went over the classroom. Everybody's, let me get on task to earn, points or whatever. So it worked really well. The kids liked the system because they created it, so they took ownership. And they knew exactly what they were striving for, and they worked towards it. And when they got the points, they, leveled up and they earned it. So it worked very well with my kids. It was very motivating, at least. And now it's funny because now the kids are in 8th grade. They're like, Mr. Downing, can you come upstairs and so what you did last year? Because they're not doing it. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll share the wealth. So, and I actually like my position now because it gives me the opportunity to share what I did in my classroom with other teachers and try to get them to do it too. So, yeah.
So let me put on the admin hat. What about the data? Are they accepting of some of the stuff that's coming out of 3D Game Lab, or do you have to show it in a grade book on a test?
My principal, she's not one of those. She's forward thinking. She's all about, we're teaching digital natives, so let's adapt. And she's not big on, let's roll out a whole bunch of data and tell me if it works. She's more so about the engagement. She's looking at the process. So when she comes to my room and she sees the learning taking place and the engagement and how students love it, that's what she sees, and that's what she loves to see, is the fact that the kids love learning. It's more about their love of learning than what numbers necessarily show. But what I did show her was just the fact that I compared, data from my previous years of not flipping and looking at how many students scored, C's and D's due to not completing homework and projects, and then analyzing my data this year for flipping, and the numbers were ridiculous, just because of the fact that now I shifted all that weight. Now I don't think that's necessarily the gamification. That's more the flipped learning piece. So I had more students getting A's and B's in my class than I've ever had before, because now I can control what I can in my classroom. So.
And that's just more completion, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow,
Yep. Yeah.
So tell us, one of the things I liked about your guys' session at FlipCon was the whole model of flip mastery and taking the mastery component and gamifying it.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So with the flip mastery, the kids, like we talked about a little bit before, is that they have multiple opportunities to succeed at a particular skill or particular component that we're teaching. Now, Tom Driscoll, who was presenting there, is more of an expert than me on the mastery piece. And who else was there presenting with me? Corey, who wasn't, he was out and he had a wedding to go to, but he also does really great at the mastery component. And so what I did with my kids, though, just to because I wanted them to be successful and I wanted them to have multiple opportunities to get things right. So that's what happened. I gave them a number of lives, and Tom's approach and my approach was a little bit different. I think in his class he had an endless amount. I couldn't wrap my brain around that because of the pacing that we have to deal with in our, our county and our district. So I gave my kids just 3 lives, and they could choose to do whatever they want with those lives. And so if they decide, okay, I want to use this life and start all over again because I'm not satisfied with my grade, then they would take that life, go back. And that's what was great about the flip learning, marrying gamification. They didn't necessarily need me because now they can go back to the video, watch the video, and if there's a misconception or something they didn't understand, I would easily sit with them, go over it, talk about those misconceptions, and then they would go back, complete the task, and resubmit. So I loved it. The kids would choose, most of the kids, what I disliked about it, they would wait till the end of the quarter. They were very tactful, and they would look at, okay, what weighs the most that I didn't do well on, and let me go back. But still, they took ownership. They decided, they made the conscious decision to figure out, what was the best interest for them, and they went for it. So I liked it.
You know what else? It gets rid of a stigma of
Mm-hmm.
like, how we always do these test retakes and it's like, I didn't do well.
Right.
No, when you make it a game, it's like everybody
Right.
does that. We all
Right. Right.
do a new life, that's no big deal.
Yeah,
I
and I mean,
love it.
it makes it kind of safe to fail. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I know in my back pocket I can go back and do this over again. I mean, there's pros and cons because now kids are like, am I really going to study for this? I know I got an extra life, but I think the pluses outweigh the minuses. Like the fact that you give them an opportunity to go back, and it just reinforces what learning is all about. So
Yep. Repetition is always
yeah.
good too.
Hmm.
Doesn't hurt.
And I like the concept of with 3D Game Lab, you can reopen the quest for them,
Hmm.
and they can recomplete it. Whereas,
Right.
before in my classroom, if I told a student, well, you need to go back and rewatch this video before you
Right.
do this or whatever, I had no really way to know if they rewatched the video or not.
Right. Okay.
I always said you're responsible to learn the material. If you don't want to watch the video, don't watch the video, but learn the material.
Hmm.
But I like how the quest is. You can just say, just resubmit this quest when you've redone the material.
Right. Hmm. And I like how in 3D Game Lab too, you can give them accurate feedback to tell them, okay, this is what you didn't do right. This is, and then they now exactly know what they need to work on when they need to resubmit it. So I like that component in there too. So
I like the verbiage just in gaming by itself. The word quest is so
yeah,
much
it
better
sounds
than
right.
assignment, isn't it?
Right.
Or just
Yeah.
I've never liked the word work in
Yeah.
learning. To me it's all fun. So
Right.
using that word is terrible, and you rename everything so it's all new.
Yeah. That's what we did. We had a Shakespeare quest, a Shakespeare unit, and I had all Shakespeare quests, and some of them were multiplayer, some of them were single player, and I always gave a certain XP point to each one of those, and so they get to decide, how many, and I would say, okay, you need to at least submit or complete this many XP points for this unit. So now they get to choose exactly what they want to do and which quests they want to go in and who they want to do the quest with. So I'm really just kind of hands off, just going around, clarifying, meeting with small groups of students individually. Loved it. It was great. I kind of miss it. Like it's like, did I make the right choice of coming out of the classroom? Because you see so many great things now, and you're like, I wish I had a group of students in front of me. So I went to my principal the other day. I was like, any way I could borrow some kids just for a mod or two? But then I thought, that's going to be so unfair to that classroom teacher if I go in there and I say, oh, guys, here's this great idea, and then I just walk away and
Yeah.
take it with me. And now they're going to be forced to say, oh, wow, how could I use that? Because the pressure is now going to be on them. So I'm
But you
kind of
can
torn
always
about
offer
that.
them. You can offer them that, you know, if you try it, I'm happy to
Right.
co-teach with you for a
Yeah.
while, and
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that long-term commitment.
Well, I think
Co-teach, that word.
Okay, all right, all right. I'll support you in your.
There you go. I like that better. When you say co-teach, that means I'm committed for a number of days for some mods. Can't throw that around lightly.
Sorry.
I had some fifth graders visiting me after school the other day while I was working on something, and I noticed one of the teachers was completing a quest, and I said, "Oh, Miss Denny's down there playing a game in her classroom," and they were like, "What?" I'm like,
That's
"Yeah."
funny.
And so they ran down, "Are you playing games?" And she was like,
Right.
"What are you? No, I'm not playing games." I'm like, "Yeah, you are."
That's hilarious. You want to play a game? Let me show you.
You're going to get the reputation of spying on them. You got to watch out.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I did tell them. I said, "You're not required to do this.
Right.
These are for your benefit." But I
Mhm.
said, "We will see who's done them, and my principal will see who has completed them. So at the end of the
Mhm.
year, if he wants, he can say, well, you need more development in this area, and I see that you did not do anything that was set up that you could have done, and
Yeah.
so, and that's a principal decision on his relationship with the teacher, but
Mhm.
it's data to show what have they done to improve in this area.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just surprising to me that more companies like Edmodo or Schoology hasn't had they don't have any like additional gamification layers to what they're already doing. Because I mean, this movement seems like it's growing and it's becoming more and more popular, and I'm just curious as why I don't know why they're not, because to me it would be very easy to add a gamification layer to Edmodo. If they
That's a,
did that, I wouldn't jump ship and go to 3D game like because I'm already used to Edmodo. But like Schoology doesn't have, for what I've seen, like any type of leaderboard. They have badges, and
mhm.
that's about it. But anything else is not there. So
But there are so many other game mechanics that they could add. I mean,
right,
the whole Minecraft gaming in the classroom now, it has gotten big, and that's based on creativity. And
right,
so, I mean, you were teaching English.
hmm
I mean, there's got to be a way to bring in the creativity aspect into some of these learning management systems so
yeah,
that they can be a part of the game and you can build something,
right, right, yeah,
maybe even as a community. That would be
yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
And, but I'm giving him ideas. Where are those programmers out there that want
right,
to do
right, yeah.
this? Because
We just need to mesh them all together.
yes, because that's
Um,
out there. I'm seeing more and more people are looking at those game mechanics and starting to
mhm.
say, you know, how does that fit the education world? And they're trying.
Yeah. And it's like, and it's funny because we started using a new app this year that even has a gamification component in it. It's the My Homework app, and what we're doing with that, we're using that to replace agenda books. It's such a great app. Like what I love about it is device agnostic, so you can get it on Android, iTunes. They even have a website. So the way it works is when a teacher creates an assignment, it automatically pushes to every student that's in their class.
Mm-hmm.
And a parent can enroll in the class and see all the assignments, and they give them late notifications, reminders. They can see all their classes in one calendar. So we're rolling that out with our students, one, to save money because it's a lot cheaper using this app than it is to purchase 850 agenda books, but then they also can use it off-site. But within the actual mechanics of the game, they have a way you earn points. Like the more you use the app, you earn points. And then as you earn so many points, they have a partnership with Redbox, so you get free movie subscriptions as you use the app more and more. And they're looking at partnering with other companies to also, kind of incentivize the use of their app too. So they're open to try to figure out how we can make these partnerships work. So we're kind of piloting it with our students this year. So we'll see how. I'll keep y'all posted, let you know how it goes. But I love the app so far. Our principal even created a group for the staff to give announcements, to make announcements. We're all part of her class, and so that's how she rolls out her weekly, updates and everything else. So
Ooh,
far,
I
so
like
good.
the sound of that.
Yeah.
That is very middle school oriented.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because to get kids in 7th grade to use a calendar is a little bit challenging still.
Yeah.
They think they can remember it all.
Right. Hmm.
They used to
Yeah.
have a teacher that would remind them all the time, and so they
Right.
have to do it.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that's not the way the world's going to work forever.
Right. Yeah.
So you're right. We don't have to, but we are using Blackboard, and we just are rolling out their calendar, and it's pretty good. It populates all based on what the teachers have put in.
Okay.
But it's going to be, there's no points. I mean, there's no incentive,
Yeah.
and
Right.
I don't know how to make that.
Right.
So that's cool.
So we'll wrap it up here because we've been pushing an hour at this point. Tim, how can the listeners find you if they want to know more about you, get in contact with you?
I'm on Twitter. I think you can see my handle is @techmonius. I have a blog. It's edtechsanity.com. So I haven't blogged since May. So, but I mean, I have a lot on there about mainly gamification. Actually, all my blogs are about gamification, game-based learning, flipped learning. They can also email me at tim.downing@pgcps.org. I'll be more than happy to help anybody that is wanting to use, gamification, learn how to use it, game-based learning. A friend of mine also started a Voxer gamification group. I don't have the code, but let me see. I'm probably run out of time, but there's a Voxer group. So if you jump on, let's see if I can find it. Do I have enough time? Let me see.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, let me see if I can see what the code is.
I've been trying to get Joan on Voxer.
Oh, yeah.
I had my reasons, but I will.
Yeah. I heard of another use for Voxer the other day, doing like staff book
clubs?
like book clubs, but then you don't have to physically meet if you don't have the time to physically meet. Everybody can just respond through Voxer their ideas.
That's cool.
Thanks. I'm going to use that one. Because our principal just talked to me. That's funny that you just mentioned that, because our principal was trying to requiring the staff to do a book club around the book mindset. And so she was like, how should we roll this out? So I'm gonna borrow that one. But I can't see, I'm not sure how you see the group code in Voxer. So, well, if you email me, because I don't own the group, I just joined it. So if you email me or if you contact me on Twitter, I'll definitely share this, because there's a lot of conversation going around. I think it's like 103 different messages on here right now since August about gamification and game-based learning. Just a bunch of people sharing resources and sharing their experience so far. So I'll definitely feel free to share that with anybody who wants to know. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your time, and I think you're doing, a lot of cool stuff with flip learning and with gamification.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the second chance. Again, I appreciate it. It was great talking with you all. Thank you for all your hard work. This is the 105th episode. That's outstanding. That's pretty amazing. I want to be like you when I grow, because I try to do one every now and then. It's just, where do you find the time, man? That's commitment and dedication right there.
That's why it's
both.
That's why it's 10 o'clock at night, and we're
Your time was perfect. He said 9 o'clock is absolutely, because that's when I put the kids to bed.
Yep.
I'm a night owl. I'm one of those 9 to 12 to 1 people. So.
Yeah, when I try to explain to some people, I'm like, I've got to get home. I've got to do a podcast. They're like, it's like 9 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, right. I know. I'm still doing work at 9 o'clock at night.
Right. It never stops. Especially when you love what you do. It's just like, it's not really, it's work, but then it's not. It's like, I like sharing. So that's how you can tell it's really not work when you love doing it and you're committed, even in the late night hours, to do it. So. Yeah.
Well, thanks again for your time, and for
Appreciate it.
I hope you enjoyed the episode.
All right. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Have a good one.
You too.
Take care.